This is the 2012 Chevy Cruze. What I'm going to be doing today is running a small amp, only about 75 RMS power off the stock radio. And what I have is the standard stereo. So it doesn't have any 6x9s in the back here, but I have the holes. So I'm going to put some 6x9s in there and run some speakers back here. And I'll show you how to hook up an amplifier off the stock stereo. Alright, first off we want to locate the grommet in the firewall. So here's the battery. So I found it back here, behind the reservoir here. And I don't know if you can see it, but it's down here, it's going right to the firewall there. So I'm going to poke a hole in there. I'm only running a 10 gauge wire. You can run if you run a 4, if you run a bigger amp, whatever size volt wire you want to use for your power line off your battery. I only need to use 10 because it's a small amp I'm using. But I found it, so I'm going to see how hard it is to get through that grommet and wire it up. Alright, so here is the grommet on the inside of the car. It's behind your brake pedal up to the left. That's that grommet that runs from the outside. So what I've done is I stuck a coat hanger through it because there's no room on the outside there. So there's the grommet on the inside. So how I'm going to feed it through here is it comes out the outside here through the grommet. And what I've done is I've taped my wire to the end of the coat hanger that I've stuck through. And then all I'm going to do now is pull the coat hanger back through to the inside of the car, which will bring my cord in. So as you can see, I pulled the coat hanger through and the cord came right through the grommet on the inside as I'm pulling it through right now. Alright, I just wanted to go over this real quick, so I'll just be picking up some 6x9s and this amplifier. Generally when you have an amplifier, you run off RCA jacks. But when you do not have an RCA jack coming off your head unit, which usually with stock radio does not, that's when you have to use your high level input right here. Some amps don't have a high level input, and this gets hooked up through speaker wires. If you don't have a high level, you can get a lock connector, it's called, and pretty much it does what this does. It hooks up to speaker wires, and then you plug your RCA jacks into that, then run it to your amp. Fortunately, this one has the high level inputs, so I'm going to run it that way. So where I was going to get my speaker wires from to run my high level input on my amp was through this back. And I was going to it comes right through here, and then it comes right up to this side panel. And it was right behind the side panel, and I was going to get the 2 off of this one, and the 2 off of that door over there. But as I was pulling out for the 12-volt cord, I noticed that the master wire, as I pulled it out right here, the panel, all the wires for the speakers are actually right here. I pulled off the panel by a hood release. They're all right here, your speaker wires. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run my speaker wires, my fronts, back for the input, for the high input on the amp. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to run 4 more speaker wires back up here. And I'm going to hook up all the stock speakers to the amplifier also in here. If I can find the speaker code to tell you exactly which wire is each speaker individually, because there's so many of them, I'll try to post that too. Okay, so I found my front speaker wires. The front left, this one is going to be blue is positive, and brown with a blue stripe is negative, and that's the front left. And on the front right is yellow is positive, and yellow with a black stripe is negative. So I have these 2 right here going to be running to my high input on my amplifier. And the other end, so then I ran extra lines to come back to them, so these speakers will be amplified, and these will be plugged into my amplifier. And this will run the high input. So that's what I got so far. Also wanted to mention, if you are running an LOC switch, a lock switch, you're not running your amplifier, it doesn't have the high input. If you can run it right up here, tie into your speakers right here, and they have a nice ground screw right here. So that you can hook that up for your LOC switch. Ground will be right there. And another thing I want to mention, 4 gauge wire would have no problem coming through the grommet back there, and you have plenty of room to run your 4-gauge wire under here. So plenty of room to run if you're running subs for a big amp. You got plenty of room. Alright, most aftermarket decks come with a remote wire, which is just a power cord, a 12-volt power cord that turns on when you turn your ignition on. In fact, when it turns on your amp. If you don't have an aftermarket, like I'm using the stock radio, you obviously don't have a remote cord. So what you have to do is go buy an ADA circuit, and this is called an ADA circuit right here. What it does is it plugs into a fuse, and then right here, you put in the original fuse, and then you put in the second fuse in the back, which runs this cord for your remote. And all you gotta do is go to your switch box and find something that only gets turned on when you turn your ignition on. It's for power wire. So right here, number 7 is a power outlet. So right here, my fuse box would be right there. So I'm gonna take out the fuse right here and plug in this, and then I'm gonna put in the fuse it had there, which I believe was a 20, and then I'm gonna put the 10 running for my remote, and then I'm gonna run the wire back to the amplifier off of this for my remote switch for it. And here's what the ADA circuit looks like when you have it all plugged in, ready to go. So there would be your remote switch to your amplifier coming right there. Just put a cord right in there and you're all set to go. Alright, so I'm in the trunk right now, and just to show you, I mounted my 6x9s, and all I did was get some metal self-tapping screws right here, mounted them up, and went up nice and snug. Alright, amp installation is done. I got the power cord run off the battery within 12 inches. I got an inline fuse run through the grommet. Coming out of the grommet on top of the brake pedal. And then I have everything coming. I had all the speaker wires right back here. I found that's where I tapped into everything. I ran everything clean. All nice. Right into the back. Mounted the amp, high level on the bottom. Everything's mounted. Got the 6x9s in there, and surprisingly, the stock speakers sound really good. They must be the premium ones also. They must just keep the same speakers for both sets, because channeling that says 350 watts max power, but that amp actually runs 75 RMS. And these speakers are handling it no problem. It sounds really good. It's about twice as loud as what it was for the stock. Let's see what we got here. If I can start this up real fast. So yeah, everything was right in down here. All your wiring you'll need to run without a second deck, running the stock deck. But this really knocks now. I know you won't be able to tell how loud that is on YouTube, but I'll tell you what, it sounds really nice. I even got the little tweeters up here amplified. They sound really great too. Really good installation. It came out really good. All right.